DDP and the Diamond Cutter were super over in the WCW, but his run in WWE, well, let's just say it was not a self-high five. He came in as the stalker, yet in the end it felt like he had to sneak away into the night. DDP could have been so much more in the WWE, if only for a brief run. But that run could have been hot, right? We find out on today's show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rebooking the Territory podcast. This is your host, Luke Thayer. This is the podcast where we go through and take those wrestling storylines and angles and things that we just wish had gone differently in the past in the professional wrestling world, and we turn them into what they should have been. Today, my guest, he is returning to the show once again. He's a comedian, a voiceover artist, a podcaster, a writer. Jesse Jones, welcome to the show.
Hey, so happy to be here, man. We're talking to a subject today near and dear to my heart. So I'm very happy to add my voice to this story.
And well, I'm glad because I think this is one that you are going to have a particularly good take on. Besides any personal connections with our actual topic today, you're from the South. Southern wrestling is part of your history with the sport, and this guy is kind of a Southern wrestler in some ways. I mean, it's I'll just go ahead. I'll just drop the bomb about who we're actually talking about. I should have just
open up the limo door. Open up the limo door and let us know who's about to step out.
Yes, it is a DDP, but not just Diamond Dallas Page. It is Diamond Dallas Page's WWE run. It's funny to even say his name because a lot of people call him Dally or Dallas, and those are all prefaces to his actual name, which is Page. I always think of it as that being his last name. But really,
completely.
It's Diamond and Dallas, and Page is his first name. It's such a weird.
If you were looking at his license, we have been conditioned to know him as first name Diamond, middle name Dallas, last name Page.
Yes, and so even if you think of him as stunning Steve Austin, you'd still think, okay, he's Diamond Dallas Page. But right.
It's a very unique persona because even with Stunning Steve, you still pictured his license as probably Steve Irwin Austin. There was no misinterpretation that his Stunning was anywhere in there. But Diamond has always been this guy's first name.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And so in some ways that name is almost kind of Southern wrestling. But he obviously came to prominence in WCW. Mid-90s, he comes in. He's got a great run there. In fact, I think it's important to even kind of give context to about our feelings about Diamond Dallas Page, because we grew up, we saw him, we were kids when we're seeing him have his major run. And my initial impression was I didn't like him. And even though he was a big baby face, I saw him first with the Diamond Stud.
Right.
And managing Diamond Stud. That's the first memories. And I really thought more about the Diamond Stud at the time because it was a Clash of Champions. I think I saw them the first time. And, I never got pay-per-view. So I got to see the Clash of Champions because it was on cable television.
We were both TBS kids.
Yes. So we both had the TBS. We both had, the Clash of Champions. And that's something that I don't think any modern wrestling fan, anyone that didn't grow up in those. So if you're probably 30 or younger, maybe even 25 or younger, you probably have no memories whatsoever of a time where you only saw wrestling on television or a pay-per-view. There was no network. There was no streaming. There was no YouTube. There was no Monday Night Raw even. It just took, you had to see it on a Saturday morning or Saturday evening. And that was just to see wrestling. That wasn't to see good wrestling.
Right. That was just to see it. How crazy is that? There was no network. There was no streaming service. You couldn't click something and see any of the shows you wanted to see. It was it was must see. Like you had to be there. You had to make sure you tuned in at the right
television.
Time. That's insane. It's insane how long ago that was, that it feels so foreign right now.
Yeah, it's a completely different world. And so seeing someone on a Clash of Champions, that was pay-per-view quality wrestling.
Yes.
And all that meant was basically what would be on a Monday Night Raw now, which is every single match was a name brand wrestler. There was no
jobbers.
Essentially, to describe it to a younger fan, is when you go to the grocery store and you see generic cereal, that's what we would see on a typical Saturday wrestling show. You would see Fruit Loops going against Fruit Rings.
Oh, I love that. I love that, because you're absolutely dead on.
Yeah, they're both cereals, but one is selling you a lot more and you're buying it for a lot more reasons than just the flavor. The other is just the flavor.
The beauty of that time period, though, was I think the announcers were so good. So you would be watching Fruit Loops versus Fruit Savers, and there was like Tony the Tiger in the background going, "He's never gonna do it, Gorilla. He's never gonna do it." It was the whole package was so immersive in terms of your imagination as a child. Like you honestly thought Fruit Savers had a moment or two where he was gonna come, like he was gonna get there and come at it and come back and win. Like you didn't know he was a jobber. We weren't as smartened up then as we are now.
Absolutely, yeah, and there really aren't job guys anymore. There are guys that they either are on their way up the card or on their way they're down the card, but they're all name entities. And then there's guys who never make it to the top who lose, but they were all the time. The intention isn't that's where they are on the card. And they used to have guys that their complete job description was job description, by the way.
Yes.
Is to go out and job lose.
I felt like AEW was doing a great job of that when they started, by just having somebody. There was no clearer indication of a jobber than their real name when the show started. Like you've got the Boston Brawler's not a great idea. He's the most famous jobber of all time.
The Brooklyn Brawler.
You've got Brock Lesnar versus Jeremy Horowitz. It's like, Jeremy Horowitz is not going to win. He's got no build. He looks like me, and he's going up against Dory Funk Jr. Like, you're obviously not going to come through this thing on top.
Yes, and to me, maybe I'm just old school with this, is I think that's something that wrestling has lost. I think that it makes, because everything's special, nothing's special.
Exactly.
And so
100%.
Yeah, it built up anticipation. Just the idea that I was going to get to see Hulk Hogan wrestling was a gigantic deal, because what we would see on the Saturday morning clip show was we would see a moment that had taken place on something else, but never him wrestling. It would be like Andre the Giant ripping off his shirt.
Totally.
That was it. That's all you would see is this clip. You wouldn't even get to see the whole thing of that. And it's all promos and building you up for paying to see them.
And that has been, you can look at the marketing that goes into that logic. And now that we are such a 24/7 society, they can't build up to the pay-per-view. The reason pay-per-views don't matter as much as they did back then is that they're building up to every episode. So the same buildup that you see towards Backlash is the same buildup that you see towards Monday Night Raw. Look at the main event. You've got Roman Reigns, or SmackDown, whatever. SmackDown's main event. You've got Roman Reigns versus whoever. Well, guess what? The week before, you saw Roman Reigns versus whoever in an unsanctioned match. And the week before that, you saw Roman Reigns versus that exact same person in a tag team match. Like there is no special anymore. You just see them doing what you're going. It's almost like you've been like like when you polish a stone and you just sit there and you keep getting the stone wet, like it's just wearing down the stone until it's a gem. That's the audience. Only instead of wearing us down to a gym, they're wearing us down to a point where we're there because we've always been there and we care about it, but we don't care about it because we just saw it 4 or 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah, the audience has been worn down to a gym, Jim. There's just one dude left. And so it's
he's still sitting there. He's going, EC dub, EC dub.
Yeah, it's this is, and the problem is it's really hard to knock the business side of all of this. When you're having $1 billion deals with Fox, you're having $1 billion deals with Peacock. It's just like, look, the money's there. They're making more money now than they ever have in existence of wrestling, and I can't deny that. But in terms of building an audience that is going to be lifelong fans like we are, is there has to be a molding of that audience. They have to fall in love with the thing and not just be entertained and have lights flashing at them once. It's like going to the circus. Nobody's a lifelong fan of the circus. You went to the circus when you're a kid and you're like, that was really fun. And one day I will take my kid there once and that's it.
Yeah, completely. That is that is such an interesting point of view, because I've been watching this since you've been watching this. And my son, he started watching this 2 years ago and he's almost done with it.
Yeah.
And I think that plays into what you're talking about, because it's like he's been fully inundated with it. We got to see it and it was special. It was a thing you didn't get to see all the time. He sees it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, unless the NBA finals are on, Friday, and then Sunday. He has run a lifetime of fandom in 2 years.
Yes.
That's super. That's super. You're absolutely correct there, man. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, that's what I do here is I just try to get people to think about it a different way. And it's unfortunate because I think that the business is going to do money for as long as it does money, and probably forever. But just the experience is left. This is why Jim Cornette probably goes on his rants about how wrestling isn't wrestling anymore and everything. I think that there's room for things to grow and evolve for sure. I think even if you just took this current product and you just made it more special, you have to, you don't get to see everything all of the time. And a program that I really, really was enjoying before the pandemic was NWA Power.
Right.
And yes, it's a small little studio show, but they did promos. They built up to an event that you would have to pay to see. You aren't going to get to see Nick Aldis just compete every week. You might get to see him do a promo, but you're not going to actually get to see him wrestle every week. Right. And then when you did get to see him wrestle, it was going to be a tag team event or a mixed tag. And that's the way
protect him a little bit,
so that it's really, really special when he puts that NWA 10 pounds of gold on the line. And so it can be done in a modern wrestling sense. And obviously that was more of a throwback show, but they were still modern wrestlers. It's, those guys, some of those guys have gone on to other programming or kind of doing what they were doing there someplace else, whether it's NXT or AEW. So I think it can be done. And Diamond Dallas Page is a guy who
he shouldn't have ever made it.
He should have never made it because of his age, for one.
His age was the big thing. I don't think you can talk about his run in WWE without looking at the things that WCW would permit that Vince was never going to get around.
Yes.
I just think that's 100%. Dally is a politicker, and he was very good at knowing his place on the card. And then he saw an opportunity to get in the ring, and he was well past his prime when he got in the ring. And I don't mean, I don't hate on me. I'm not saying that he wasn't a good hand in the ring. I'm just saying when you look at somebody, ideally as your champion, you're not going to pick somebody his age. It was a testament to how over he was that he was able to go how he did, but that also is a testament to his ideology as a person and his you're not going to tell me what I can't do. I will get over. I will get in the ring at, what was he, 45? What was he when he got to WWE?
He was 45 when he goes to WWE. And so
Right.
he really didn't even get into the ring. I can't say wrestling business because he had
Forever.
been managing things, but he got into the ring when he was 35, I believe. And it wasn't champion until he was 40 or 41. You know, so
That's
I mean, that's
insane.
great story. And it's really, and I think that it could be done, but it's just generally speaking, it's kind of like in comedy when, you know, people are looking for the next new thing. They're not necessarily looking for the 40-year-old. They're looking at the 25-year-old. And so that's true in wrestling too, where it's like they're thinking, who's the young stud that's going to be able to carry the championship for 5, 10, 15 years, not, oh, here's a guy who is normal retirement age in wrestling, you know, 40 years old, just because the wear and tear on your body.
Completely. You're absolutely right. And he by Vince's standards, by regular wrestling standards, he was already a senior citizen. By Vince's standards, he was Legends contract. He should have never been in the ring by Vince's normal mentality.
Absolutely. And something that's kind of interesting about Page in general is that when he first started, you know, in the wrestling business, he had a lot of gimmicks, a lot of stuff on him, you know, jackets, and he's got cigars, and he's coming out glasses, you know, and he's told these stories on podcasts where it's like he was just sat down, just like, get rid of all of that. You don't need all of that stuff. You know, you're turning everything about you as a gimmick rather than just you pick your one thing and then be you. And so once he did that, man, he's really started to get over it. Even though I said at the beginning of this, I wasn't really a fan of him. I wasn't really a fan of him because I was a big fan of the NWO. I stuck with Hogan the entire time.
Right.
And so I was in that realm. My baby faces were the actual heels, and he was a baby face. And that's kind of
our generation.
Yeah, that's our generation. We kind of went with the edgier side of things, or the heel side. So he was on that WCW side of things, that brand versus the NWO. But he was a great talent.
Oh, completely. But to your point, there was nothing lamer than to be on the side of Karl Malone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was right there with you. Like he always struck me almost as a mark. Like he was that guy that somehow loved the business so much that he got over. Like he was that guy that was when you hear the backstories on him, where he was just like he loved the wrestling business so much that they started using him, and then he went from manager to world champion. Just the fact that Diamond Dallas Page was ever a world champion is surreal to me. That should have never happened. That's a testament to the guy's fortitude and how over he was.
Yeah, and clearly he must make a great impression on those he meets and works with, and that Dusty Rhodes is friends with him, Eric Bischoff's friends with him, Macho Man was friends with him. You know, we're going to do the Diamond Cutter tonight. It's
listen here, Mr. Diamond Dallas Page, Diamond Dally tonight. You were taking the bottom of baby.
Yeah, and so it's. And honestly, I mean, he probably was about the same age as
Dusty.
Macho Man and Dusty. It's like these guys were, you know, to me, I don't know how you felt. Dusty Rhodes always felt 100 years old when I was a kid.
Oh my God. Like when Flair was fighting Dusty, Flair seemed like the evangelical saint of the ring. And Dusty seemed like that guy that was like Rocky he always looked like Rocky in the last round, no matter when you saw him.
Yeah. And so let's see. So in 85, Dusty Rhodes was 40. So he was probably about 45 when I first got into wrestling, which is what Diamond Dallas Page was when he went to WWE. And that's unbelievable. And you think about Dusty probably had a 20-year career prior to 1990. And so
and they both got the same gimmick. They both got Vince McMahon. The only difference was Dusty got polka dots and Diamond Dallas Page got Stalker.
And
what a throwaway freaking gimmick, man.
It was well, it's terrible for a couple reasons. One, there's a terribleness of it, of like, yuck, we've just gone into pervert, sexual deviant, criminal,
yes, because it was not executed like I'm just watching you. It was like, no, Undertaker's wife felt unsafe. Like
yeah, if you look at it through the lens of Me Too, it's like, man, you can't even do a storyline like this.
Completely
right. And it's gross, and so
creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy. And so even just, before we go right into the rebooking, just thinking about how, just to emphasize again, I didn't dislike Dallas because of who he was. But even as a fan of the NWO, a fan of his opponents, his two things that were 100% over with every kid I knew were the diamond cutter and the diamond cutter symbol. Bang. Bang. Right? The hand gesture, bang.
High five.
Yes, and the rip-off Nirvana song. That not even rip-off. They basically just took Smells Like Teen Spirit and brought him into the ring, right?
Which is hilarious considering he sued Jay-Z for that right there.
Yeah, for the diamond
doing
cutter
the diamond
symbol.
cutter.
And it's so, and I'm sure that's a WCW thing. They're kind of like, hey, look, use it until somebody sues us. And so unless you probably look on YouTube, you'll never see that intro music again, because WWE that owns everything. They're like, we're not putting up that's owned by, the state.
Listen, we gave Punk Cult of Personality. We're not giving Diamond Dallas Page Nirvana.
Yeah, definitely not that. So going into the WWE now, as we're starting to get into and look at, what we want to do with him here, it's important to note those things, because for one, I believe his hand gesture was taken away from him. So he wasn't allowed to do the hand thing, bang. He might have done it a couple times, but I think that at some point Vince McMahon told him, don't do that.
Holy God. Okay. I've every time you saw him, it's hard to remember him as Diamond, because he was not wow. I've never really I guess that's how brief his run was in the WWE, that he didn't really even get a run as Diamond Dallas Page. He only got the run as the Creeper.
Yeah, he's like the Stalker.
Wow.
He did a little bit after, but I mean, only thing that's he was even remembered from is the Stalker, but he wasn't in there super long. He got kind of hurt, shortly after his run in there. And by the way, we're going to refer to it all as WWE today, even though I think the very first few months he was in there, it was WWF. And I usually try to refer to it as what it is at the time, but it's like, essentially this has converted into WWE. We're kind of
it's right there at that transition
era. It's like the end of the Attitude Era. It's the buy-in of WCW. It's turning from WWF to WWE. The Invasion, he really could have been a great Invasion angle. They didn't do much with that.
He would have been an amazing Invasion angle, because he was literally WCW created 3 stars. They created Goldberg, they created Scott Steiner, and they created Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. And I think you can even throw in Booker T in there as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely forgot Booker T.
Yeah.
To me, Booker was he's one of the few people that was able to run through Vince McMahon's I hate WCW filter and become more entertaining after, even though he never got the championship. I almost consider Booker T a WWE guy for how long he was there.
Yeah, he was
just the freaking,
definitely spent more at this point. He spent more hours clocked in to the WWE.
He was just amazing. But at that time, Booker T was not the commodity that he is now when the invasion angle happened.
True. He'd been the champion in WCW, but he was a later champion.
Right.
Really, who you wanted for the invasion. When you think of WCW, and we're not talking about Hogan because Hogan's a WWF guy.
He was a turncoat. His biggest success in WCW was as the anti-WCW.
Yes. And so, and I think you could extend that to Scott Hall and
agreed
Kevin Nash as well, because they're the NWO was a anti-WCW thing, outsiders, people from New York, essentially.
Basically, so, right. Atlanta versus Connecticut.
Absolutely. And so you've got Ric Flair, who's always going to be associated with that Southern brand.
True.
You've got Sting, who at that point would have been over a decade in, but doesn't come, and we know he's not going to come. And so really the main guys that they could have gone after were and did get some of these, but Bill Goldberg, like you said, Scott Steiner, Diamond Dallas Page. And they did get Diamond Dallas Page,
but they got them at the wrong time.
Yeah, really the only person that worked out of almost any WCW guy, and I will exclude people, like I said, the NWO guys that have had, back and forth, was Booker T, and you could say Ric Flair had a career renaissance when he's part of Evolution, and that's because he's a guy that was so over with the fans, but so over with the boys.
Yes.
That Triple H, everyone adored this guy, wanted to be this guy. Stone Cold wanted to be this guy.
His renaissance was with the boys more so than the fans.
Right. And so they said, essentially, these guys that had grown up watching him and now were in positions of power, this guy's got to come in. We need this guy. And Vince McMahon had a respect for him as well.
Yeah.
But there was no way that they were going to let Ric Flair be a joke here, whereas he had kind of been seen that way at different points in WCW in the 90s. And go listen to the 90s Ric Flair rebooking the Territory episode as well, where we talk about what should have been in the 1990s.
I was just sitting here thinking that like it's been that's an episode that is very fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's
because 90s Ric Flair, geez, they just missed a freaking. That's one thing Bischoff had over Vince, was he knew to put Hogan versus Flair.
Yeah, and I remember seeing those things happen because when I was a kid and Ric Flair was in WWF, I didn't understand who Ric Flair was at the time. I was too young. I had only watched WWF at that time and a little bit of WCW and saw him there. So I didn't get the significance and importance. But by the time we're hitting Hogan and WCW, I did get that significance. So you got to see that pairing going against each other. And so, when we talk about, and this is kind of wrapping around to one of the first statements I made on tonight's podcast, is that you are a Southern wrestling guy, and Diamond Dallas Page comes from that lineage of the Ric Flair, the NWA, even though he didn't wrestle in NWA.
I think WCW he's straight Harley Race.
Yes, that's a great.
He may not have had the technical ability that Harley Race had, but he had that straight freaking veneer of badassery that Harley Race was known for. The tenacity of badassery, baby, if you will.
That's a new T-shirt.
Yeah, that's my new T-shirt. Yes, it's I'm gonna owe Diamond Dallas Page a lot of money for it because I've also got the diamond cutter in the T-shirt. So,
I think as long as it doesn't say, actually, if you just spell out the word yoga underneath, I think it's fine because he doesn't want to be associated with the word yoga anymore. So. I think
unfortunately for me, I've already got the T-shirts made, and they all say Diamond Dallas Page yoga tenacity badassery. So I'm on the hook for this one, unfortunately.
All right. Well, if there's like a little button you can push, like, you know how you have greeting cards that play songs? If there's something on the t-shirt that can play Nirvana as well, then you've got
Like a Father's Day card.
yeah. So maybe it comes with its own certificate of authenticity that when you open it, it plays Nirvana.
Like if somebody chops you, if
Yeah.
somebody
Oh,
chops your
perfect.
chest, it'll hit that little green button, and you'll just hear bum ba dum ba 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 dum bum ba dum.
I don't get my podcast pulled because you're playing Nirvana on here. So
We have single-handedly ended the podcast with Diamond Dallas Page.
yeah. So I think that's a kind of an important thing to note, like, because I think Harley Race is a good comparison with him, is that he's kind of the 90s version of that, where he feels like a kind of a bouncer, a bar brawler, even though
Completely.
he's probably a larger man than Harley Race was. Like, he's like 6'4", 6'5". He's kind of a sneaky tall dude.
A big guy.
Yeah. And
but he had that same believability
Yeah,
that
he had that
Harley
energy.
Race always had. He had the energy.
yeah,
Harley Race was never a talker. He was never a Harley Race was the dude you put in the ring with the talker.
yeah.
And I think that was Dally's place in
move.
the 90s. Yeah. Hold this. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So now as we're getting into this kind of the rebooking of it, it's all of that groundwork laid. What are we going to do is the big question here, because when he comes into WWE, he's doing this stalker thing. And I feel like because he comes in as the stalker, you just have to hit the reset button on this whole thing.
Agreed. Completely.
There's no
agreed.
way to like come back from that. You can't like rebook your way out of it. You killed him as a baby.
It's the kiss of death. It's
Yeah.
literally the kiss of death, because if you did not watch WCW, you only know that, like, you remember Skinner? Do you remember when they
Yes.
took Four Horsemen and turned him into the redneck spit and chew Skinner?
Yeah.
That's what they did with DDP. They turned him into a modern, creepier version of Skinner.
Yes. Yeah. And
So delete that 100%. Let's wipe that from the record.
it's gone. It's gone. And so,
Okay, so let's start it with he's DDP. He's self high five. How do we bring him into the
diamond cutter? All of those things are
Yes.
coming with him. The vest. He's going to wear a vest to the ring. He's not coming out with a
lightning vest.
lightning vest. There is actually a little touch of something in that stalker gimmick that I like. And
The eyes? Was it the eyes?
It was just the eyes. It was actually what I think you would call a surprise. So like just showing up,
Right.
pulling off the mask or whatever, it's me type of moment. I feel like that works really well for DDP, is to have a moment of I'm here. There's a modern one where Chris Jericho was doing the Tokyo Dome with Kenny Omega and pulls off the mask, and it's in the
Wonderful.
whole time.
Wonderful.
I feel like that's a great way to bring DDP in, where it's maybe part of an invasion. Like, maybe they're doing the other guys invading. Obviously there's not the big guys that you really want, but they're doing something. But for DDP to kind of to come in a few weeks later, where it looks like, oh, we're not going to get DDP. He's not coming in. We don't know what
one of the guys.
Yeah, we don't know. It's these other guys that are the invasion, and then having him come in, and almost in the way that Sting was coming in WCW and knocking out NWO guys coming from the rafters type of thing. I don't, obviously we're not doing any rafter stuff in WWE.
No, not now.
But
dude, that's always why I love doing this with you, Luke. Because my perspective on it is always you always have such a good idea that it's such a fun thing to springboard off of. My initial thoughts on it was Vince wasted every surprise by announcing it.
Mm-hmm.
Every WCW guy got brought in by like oh my God, it's Goldberg or whatever. But you're absolutely right. If you could utilize the surprise of DDP, but not do it in such a goofy manner where you start the invasion angle and then you reveal Vince is a smart guy. How did he not think to tier the guys better than he did? Because he did tier them, but he tiered them via WWE standards.
Mhm.
WCW was so successful because they would surprise you with somebody, where WWE almost ruined every WCW debut by giving them a corny vignette a la 1990s reason WCW was beating WWE vignette.
Yeah, and there's also the obvious thing that is going to happen with Vince McMahon with any WCW guy is
I didn't make him.
Yeah, I didn't
He's
make him.
not
mine. So I need to prove that my guys are superior to their guys. And it's like once you own them, they're all your guys.
But he failed. He failed every time he tried to do that. The only reason Goldberg worked is because Goldberg continued to be Goldberg and was obviously large enough to exceed Vince's terrible booking.
Yeah, it's so with this, I'm seeing the surprise. I'm seeing him come in, and I see him taking out maybe one by one. He's going against, Triple H or The Rock. He's kind of just coming in because the Diamond Cutter has already been established, and the way Randy Orton has turned into RKO out of nowhere. It was already Diamond Cutter out of nowhere that we grew up on. He can come in, bang, do the Diamond Cutter on somebody, come out from underneath the ring.
Yeah.
And
I was just thinking that, like, what if it was a surprise where he would pop up out of nowhere and then leave?
Absolutely. And just think,
because that would also protect him. That would protect his age.
Yes, because he is 45, and that is a big deal. So I think him coming out as that very first time, maybe not dressed like Diamond Dallas Page. You don't know this is DDP at first. You see someone coming out, maybe all black, long sleeve, full black outfit, black hood. It's so essentially he's coming out as the Black Scorpion. He's coming out
number 74.
Yeah. And he's
so how would you introduce him though? I do not want to introduce him as the guy stalking the Undertaker's wife, Sarah. I don't want to do that. How does he first come out in disguise?
So we first have to establish who's going to be that first person, right? Because is he going, well, actually, let me step back a second. We need to determine when he pulls off the mask. Right. Is he do it the very first time he comes in and does a Diamond Cutter, or do we let him do the Diamond Cutter for 4 weeks in a row before he pulls off the mask of who is this mystery man?
And let the people figure out who he is.
Yeah.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line, because in wrestling, if they figure it out before you let them figure it out, it could ruin it.
It could. And it probably goes to maybe a Vince McMahon ism or seemingly type of thinking is this audience doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough though in the Monday night era because there's 5 million people watching on both shows. So, and most of us are just switching back and forth.
You need a little bit of Vince McMahon booking, and you need a little bit of Eric Bischoff booking, where you've got like Vince McMahon protecting him and Eric Bischoff recognizing that the people weren't idiots.
Yes.
I always thought that was Bischoff's biggest strength, was understanding that the people knew at least a little bit of what was happening.
Yes. And that's the way I want to treat everything is, you guys know.
You had some idea.
You have some idea. And so I think the idea of coming in and having that moment where he's doing the Diamond Cutter, I think even a JR-ism of just going, you know who that man is, and then it's at the very end of the program and it cuts off.
Jerry the King Lawler arguing with him. Be quiet, JR. It's not possible.
It can't be him. It can't be him.
I love that. I love that.
He,
Like using the suspension of disbelief in your favor.
Yeah. And so knowing
And
that
let him go obvious with it a couple times. Like after the first few weeks, he gives like he gives a bang before he delivers the diamond cutter. Don't make it a complete mystery, because the fans are smarter than that in that especially at that time.
absolutely. It's
let his gold hair poke out from under the hood a little bit.
Because he cut his hair, and like, he has that shorter hair in there. If he keeps the longer hair,
I would have kept the longer hair.
Yeah. And so I think that, I'm kind of just going over some dates here, because he didn't come in until June of 2001. And so Stone Cold Steve Austin is the champion at this time. He had beaten The Rock, at WrestleMania 17. And so he's the champion. He's the guy that and I'm not doing this to you. Obviously DDP can't do that to Stone Cold.
Sure.
That's not going to ever be in the cards ever. As much as they might be friends, Vince McMahon's not going to have that happen.
Well, this is me and you booking it though.
It is.
What
I also feel like he's Stone Cold so hot that
he would just dwarf him. It would just be
I think it would kill DDP.
A bump in the road. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. He would. Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
So then you decide, okay, who is that first guy? So in the debut, he's debuting in WWF. His first one is a Raw, June 18th, where he unveils himself as the stalker. They've been doing all that stalking stuff for all the time. I think if you just kind of throw all of that out,
right,
and we're not doing that, instead we're going to have, because the upcoming pay-per-view is going to be King of the Ring. All right. So that's going to be the very next one. And so you've got some great players within that whole thing. I think it's possible to do him debuting at King of the Ring or the Raw before King of the Ring.
Okay. I'm listening.
So, the winner of that whole King of the Ring thing is Edge at this time. And so I'm sure with King of the Ring, you're not going to kill Edge, right? You're not going to have him win. And
purpose
then,
of him winning.
Yeah. Immediately have the stalker, have DDP come out and do anything to him. So King of the Ring seems like it's a Jeff Hardy kind of crowning type of moment. Edge type of moment. And so I think I'm going to have him definitely debut on a Raw.
Trade offable at that point in their careers.
Yeah. So,
you just said it yourself. We have to fix the stalker part of it. How can he come out without addressing that he's DDP and not be the stalker? Like how do we fix that narrative?
That's, my first thought is here going, all right, who are some of the heels at this time in 2001 WWF? And there's such a weird mixture, even looking at the line. I mean, it's a huge line because
it's a hard line.
There is so many
bad guys that are good guys that are bad guys. The crowd has a say in the matter for the first time.
Right. And so what I've got to do is I've got to take somebody who's just WWE, that WWF, WWE type of guy. And I think the guy that can be the first one taking that diamond cutter is Triple H.
This is us booking it. So no politics are in place.
Right. Nobody can stop you.
Yes. Triple H has
no sorry pals.
There's no internal politics keeping it from happening. Yes, you're 100% correct that Triple H would have been the perfect person at that stage to put DDP over in a way that would make the company money. Like if he had just if you could have made that happen, everybody would have benefited, including Triple H, because at that point he was not at the caliber of DDP in the fans' minds. He was still mid-card, really.
Yeah, so you know what he's going to do?
On his way up.
First couple weeks, he's coming in and he is hitting that diamond cutter on Billy Gunn.
Oh,
that's the first week, right?
I'm on board. I'm happy about this.
So next week he's doing Road Dogg.
Oh, I love it.
Hitting Road Dogg.
I forgot that DX was still together at this point.
Yep.
Let him dismantle the group. I love it.
Boom, bang.
Bang.
And they're still doing that thing where it's like right at the end of the programs, right? Every time we get to the end of the program, it's right about to go off air, and it's JR, who that mystery man, we know who he is. I'm going to tell you right now who it is. And it cuts off, programs over.
Which is also straight WCW. It's a wonderful mesh of storylines.
Right. And so then we get, even at that time, you get X-Pac. And X-Pac's a great guy to have really sell. Because I can see that, I mean, those other two guys are going to sell the diamond cutter. X-Pac is going to be the guy that is 6 feet up in the air and lands right on his face, and he's dead for the rest of history.
And he can also recognize him a little bit before he takes the diamond cutter.
Yes, and by this time, with the first two, they were more out of nowhere. By the time we get to X-Pac, there is this going to happen? You know,
is this Raw? Is every Monday night somebody going to get dismantled by this mystery madman?
Yep. This is every Monday Night Raw. We're not, because I don't want to get involved in the King of the Ring stuff. I want this to be kind of a separate thing. And so now,
and let's not call him the Stalker. Let's call him something else.
Right,
mystery
now,
madman, whatever.
He's just the mystery madman.
Yeah.
Who's
which you can totally picture JR saying.
Yes, absolutely. With that Oklahoma draw, you know, it's the mystery madman. And
who is this mystery madman?
Right. And so now the X-Pac is out there. You know, maybe DX is all kind of looking for this guy. They're looking for it. X-Pac's got his match.
Triple H comes out and cuts a promo. I'm tired of this. Whoever this guy is, bring him out.
Bring him out. And just seeing maybe as they're looking towards where maybe he's come out of the crowd the same point every time. Well, now they're all looking for that spot where he had been coming out from.
And he shows up right behind him.
It's right behind, drops X-Pac, rolls out of the ring, and he's gone as they, you know, turn around and chase him down. And so they're doing the running around thing. And like you said,
which is also brilliant because we've effectively turned DX heel in dealing with this mystery madman.
Yes. And so he gets out and Triple H is in the ring. He's the leader. And he's like, who are you? Who are you? And I might extend it, but I might just pull it off right then and have him at the end, bang. And that's when we leave. Maybe JR finally gets to say, it's DDP. It's Diamond Dallas Page.
Oh my God.
I can't believe it. He's here. And now you've got this feud with DX, and the promos now that he's cutting is, I'm coming for you, Triple H. You know, I knew you back in the day. You were a climber. You were a reacher. You were always going for stepping on people to get what you wanted.
And I'm going to stop you.
And I'm going to stop you. You look to me for advice. I gave you all the advice I could. And then you just stepped on my face as you walked out the door to come to WWF. Well, now I'm here. Now's payback. You thought payback was never going to come. Now it's here.
Does this take place at WWE Payback?
Well, let's see when it is payback, because
is it payback normally right after Backlash is right after WrestleMania.
Backlash, and it's funny because
but I love what you just said, because you also get the reveal. One of the only good things that they did with the entire DDP angle was his face when that hood comes off.
Yes,
that's proof that he is able to pull off any gimmick you give him just by his facial mannerisms.
Absolutely. And that's you want that. And like there's suspense that has built up. The fans know who it is.
Yes.
Right? They know who it is.
I love building it up that slowly with the wink at kayfabe that yes, we know who we're bringing in.
Yes. And so now he's here, and now you don't even have to be thinking it's an invasion without having to be an invasion. Now it's like I don't have to be the leader or something. It could be an individual storyline of these people invading. So
at this point, has the invasion has it already happened? I feel like DDP came in after the invasion.
It's all it all runs together to some degree, but like it's not too far after. It's like it's kind of all mixed in there.
It's fresh in the viewer's mind.
Yeah, it's maybe I think that he debuted a couple months maybe after the initial buying, but it wasn't too far after. And so now he's got an actual feud going on. He can be dealing with DX for the foreseeable future, for sure. Because if we get past King of the Ring, then it's Invasion. So after that is the Invasion pay-per-view, right? And so then you've got SummerSlam, and I think SummerSlam is really maybe the big one. Obviously
that was the blow off, but between him and Taker, right?
Yeah, let's see what I mean. And if it is, that tells you how not good that was, that he was facing him so soon. Well, I mean,
Vince set him up for failure. It was he comes out, he gets squashed by Taker is basically what happens.
Yeah, so it does not look like they were on that particular pay-per-view. It was like, well, they were, but it was like the Brothers of Destruction versus Diamond Dallas Page and Chris Kanyon. It wasn't the
they put him with Kanyon.
Yeah.
Which also
just the whole thing's just weird.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like we said, we hit the reset button on that. That doesn't exist
apparent.
anymore.
Yeah.
And so now he's in having this feud going through. That was SummerSlam that they had the that whole Brothers of Destruction, tag team thing going on. So,
which I think is proof of how bad this booking was, that you and I keep getting stuck on what they actually did.
Yeah, it's
hard to untangle.
It really is. It's tough because even Invasion, they did this 10-man tag team thing where you've got the WCW, ECW coalition versus Team WWF. And it's like, 5 guys on each side. You've got Booker T, Bubba Ray, Diamond Dallas Page, Devon Dudley, and Rhino versus Chris Jericho, Kane, Kurt Angle, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Undertaker. All of those individually are fun. As a 10-man tag that lasts 30 minutes, it's like, why not just have a battle royal and everybody gets thrown out, loses a contract
right
at that point.
Beautiful.
So you get to throw all that away. It's now you've got Triple H versus, and let me just double check and make sure he wasn't hurt at that time.
It doesn't matter. In our version, he was not.
Yeah, because he did. Yeah, so he was okay, I think, on that time.
Watching DDP over your shoulder, all I keep thinking about is if John Reap was a wrestler, he would look just like Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah. Yes. Google John Reap if you don't know. A very funny comedian. He used
to put him next to DDP.
Yeah, next to DDP because he was. I mean, John Reap's a much shorter and a much funnier man. But also, and used to be this in all of these Dodge Hemi commercials, which got him very famous. Where he's like, "That thing got a Hemi?
You got a Hemi?"
Yeah. So just having that first thing go through. Now, win or lose, because he's going to win matches with that. He's going to end up beating. There's going to be a Billy Gunn match. There's going to be a a Xbox match. There's going to be
those can all be on Raw. Those could be on Sunday Night Heat or whatever. They don't have to be main event pay-per-view matches.
Yeah, and he could do some other matches, just throw in a Christian match or whatever, just because they do those things where it's like, hey, you have to compete against people here. You're part of the company, so you got this week you're up against Rikishi or something like that, and have the interference.
Yeah, it's important to say that though, because they didn't do that with him.
Mm-hmm.
It was a complete throwaway with this character.
Absolutely, yeah. And so then, as he's moving forward past that, you've got the big blow off with Triple H. He's probably, by the way, he's going to lose that because we're still in WWF. He's not necessarily going to win that. He might win the first one, but he's not going to win everything.
No, me and you control this. For him to get over, for this to rebook, Vince's reach is so deep that I'm right there with you. I'm sitting here thinking Triple H has to go over. But for DDP to have a successful run, he needs to win his first beef.
Well, you know what? I agree. So, and I guess even saying like, oh, he's got to lose. Well, how? How do we get him in this WWE environment?
You're so smart. I see where you're going with this.
So there's got to be a way to get him to win where it doesn't make Triple H look like he's not as good. Because it's a whole faction, right? It's a whole faction that should be able to beat him. So,
I love it. I love it. Say it.
So I think we're on the same page here. So
yeah, I think so.
Where is that extra firepower coming from?
You're asking me?
Yeah, this is not a rhetorical question. This is throwing this out. Where are we getting this ability to get over on DX without DX feeling like they have to talk to Vince McMahon and get it squashed?
No. I was following your logic of WWE at the time where you build DDP up as the anti-hero by having DX cheat to win. I did not. It's a curve. It's a curveball for him to bring in somebody. I did not. I thought you were going in the direction where DX uses their numbers against DDP, but it gets DDP over by the beating that they give him, like Mick Foley logic. That's where I thought you were going.
Well, there's that. That's the only way that he can get over by losing. Right?
Yes.
So I feel like there's only going to be two ways that we can go. Over by losing, where it's cheating and there's nothing you can do but
get beat down.
You sneak. Maybe you turn the tables on DDP and you sneak in the guys from under the ring and beat him that way. Or DDP has to get people involved.
Who?
Well, that's the question. It's not going to be just regular WCW guys.
No, it's got to be somebody special.
It's got to be somebody special. And
but as a mainstay of the WCW roster, he was sort of a loner, like minus Carl Malone, who I doubt the mailman's making an appearance in your storyline. Who are they going to get? Because David Arquette's also not on the table.
He's not, but if just to give some sort of, it's not reference, but it's sure. Sorry, I started to get a phone call. Sorry, yeah. We're talking wrestling.
I thought you were throwing me a hint.
Nobody, everybody gets declined when I'm talking wrestling. What's that? My father passed away, not during my
Doesn't
podcast.
Matter. We're rebooking DDP.
We've got, there is a particular name. I am actually, and I don't want to dance around this anymore, is that there's a name that
because I'm obviously not getting it.
It's Ric Flair.
It's
the Southern wrestling guy. We had dropped some hints throughout this podcast of who the man is and who Southern wrestling is and who's Mr. WCW and who's had a career in WWE. throughout.
You've got to tie this together in promos. You can't just have Ric Flair. Ric Flair and DDP were never associated enough in his run for people to know immediately that he's going to come to DDP's aid. You're going to have to choreograph this.
And so the whole thing where, Ric Flair was only out for about 8 months, right? He was out for about 8 months. And by November of 2001 is back in as the, I'm the co-owner of WWF or whatever it was exactly that they, some
towards
of these things
the end of kayfabe.
Yes. And so I'm seeing if we've got SummerSlam is in August, he's in there by November. Well, there's a certain event that happens in November, which is Survivor Series. It's kind of like the last big event of the year. And I think that we can get
Before
through
the Rumble.
Right. And, he's just debuted in, I'm going to even say he debuts in July, because all of June that he's there, I'm doing the buildup. Who is this masked man? Is he there this week? Is he not going to be here this week? You've got a week or two of like them looking around for him and he doesn't show up. So you've got maybe about up to 6 weeks of trying to figure out who he is. He was here last week. He isn't here this week. Now that puts us into July, and then you've got this Invasion pay-per-view, and that could be the first match that he has post all this Raw stuff. He's on the Invasion, since they're doing the WCW Invasion. He's part of that thing, but he's not that 10-man tag team. He's actually going up against part of DX.
Make him a headliner in the Invasion angle,
right? And so
keep it strong.
It's then you got a few tag team matches. He gets tags up with Booker T this week, or he tags up with someone else that week.
A known entity in the Invasion.
Yes. And so already it's, wow, we're getting to the point where SummerSlam Booker T is, going up against The Rock. So we've got that's kind of going on, and we can
mid-card it with,
get that pushed a little bit further. It's going to be really hard to go all the way to Survivor Series, because if you just look at like SummerSlam is August, so then you've got September and October, then November, 3 months of stuff is really hard even in this time to get all the way there.
Well, it depends. You can make it happen. You just have to keep the you can't go matches. You have to go shenanigans.
Yes. And obviously we could push his intro back a little bit. So it's like he doesn't have to be there for that Invasion thing. But I think that you might even be able to talk Ric Flair into coming back earlier than November.
I think the Invasion needs DDP as a stronger member, because he was one of the first people to cross over and leave that guaranteed contract for FaceTime.
Okay.
You almost need him for that, because everybody that they did get, they weren't big enough for what they were being used as.
Right. So you know what we're doing? We're getting Ric Flair. We're talking to him the night of the last WCW Nitro, because he wrestled on that. He was like, "Oh, I'm out of shape." He's wearing a
t-shirt wearing.
But I'm talking to him that night. I go, "Rick, we need you to get in shape. We need you to be in shape. Why
You're
don't you
there?
take?" I'm there, and I'm talking to him. Rick, we need you in shape. And so what you're going to do is you're going to spend 4 or 5, how long you need? 4 months? How about we give you 4 or 5 months of getting into shape? Do you think you could handle that?
I don't know.
And because that's March, so what we're going to do?
Do you believe in me? I need you to say you believe in me.
We believe in you, and we've got.
If you believe in me,
this
he
all
cries. He obviously cries during this conversation.
He is, but that's because I got 2 words for him: big plans. We got big plans for you. Can't tell you yet, but we need you in shape. So he spends
As long as you've got big plans for me,
right.
In the past, that's worked out well.
We do. And so I'm keeping the original timeline. SummerSlam, they're having a nice, they're having some matches there. But Unforgiven, which is September 23rd, 2001, Unforgiven is going to be, because they did this whole, we're combining your idea and my idea. They're doing the cheating. DX gets over at SummerSlam by cheating. And
Right.
DDP vows, this is not over, my friends. I'm gonna even the odds.
We'll bring somebody with me.
I'm gonna bring somebody with me, and you're gonna see.
Beautiful because it's classic wrestling storyline,
right? And you're gonna see it Unforgiven. You guys aren't forgiven by me. You're still in that world. I'm gonna get you, and so he's in the ring by himself. DX is in there, and boom. We hear the Ric Flair music. He comes out. He's in great shape.
I kind of got to stop you.
Okay.
From everything you just laid out, he goes out to the ring by himself. Lights cut out. Who was a better face in WCW than DDP? What if when the lights go out, Sting shows up instead of Flair?
That's actually okay.
I mean, by your logic, because Flair was already, I love the Nature Boy, but he was brought back by WWE as an older patron of the arts. Sting, if had not even been hinted at that time. If DX does him wrong, he's like, we're going to even the score. Lights go off and the freaking Sting music starts. That would be epic.
Okay. So what we're going to do.
Okay.
Because I love it. Because
we're getting towards Survivor Series. There's a lot of ways we can combine this.
Yes. So Ric Flair still comes out. And DX is kind of like, you're going to fight us with one dude, right? He's
going to fight us with the old guy.
He's in the robes. He's got the music, everything, he's coming down the entranceway, but he's got a mic in his hand. And so he goes, I'm here to tell you one thing. Then the lights go out. Sting comes to the ring. Lights go back on. Sting's in the ring with the bat, and he's taking him out. So now we've got Ric Flair, DDP, and Sting it's top of the pyramid stuff here.
Right.
And of WCW, and they're together. They now have the equalizer at DX because it doesn't matter how many members of DX because we got a baseball bat.
Well, how about this? Instead of letting there be two reveals in one night, Flair comes out. He's got DDP's back. They agree to a tag match at the next pay-per-view, and it's going to be who would have been it would be better for it to be like the New Age Outlaws because they were the known tag team versus Flair and DDP. And then Sting comes out at that pay-per-view when the other members of DX get involved.
Well, there we go.
I mean? Like, what if we pace it out a little bit so it's not all revealed at one time?
That's great. That gets you a pop on Raw when Ric Flair comes out.
And then it gives you a pop when Stinger comes out at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Which at that time, he would have still not been 80 years old, and it would have been a big pop.
Absolutely. And then you've now got 6 months of programming here with these guys. And so then
the only thing you're really missing is we got to be careful because we're almost building a stable here.
Yes, but you know what this is? This is still all Invasion, the first year of the Invasion.
Right.
So I think that after that it's been established, eventually WWE is going to sort of win this battle because that's, even as a writer for WWE, I got to say, WWE's got to win this WCW battle, or you're going to have a separate program that is WCW. So if it's Monday Night Raw is WWE. SmackDown is a Nitro version of Nitro or something like that.
If Vince's ego was not where it was, I think you could have totally done Monday Night Raw and Friday Nitro.
Yeah. So one way or another, we got to go towards those things. I think honestly, if you had Ric Flair, Sting, and DDP, a hot DDP, a strong DDP, you now have the beginnings of a flagship WCW show.
And you only have to do it at the beginning.
Yes.
I think even at that time, viewers would have, what we're playing at's obviously not going to last very long.
Mm-hmm.
The personalities are too strong for it to be like a long-term stable. You never build a stable full of all main eventers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, this at least builds it where now there's strength. Yes. WCW has some strength. It's now almost like that, those matches where you have two guys go hard against each other. Maybe they're both bloody, but at the end they both have respect for each other. That's what the invasion angle ends up being. Is that it's
Dusty Flair?
Yeah, we now have respect for each other, and so as we get out of that whole DX feud with these guys, that they get to go on and have a separate program where DDP gets to be one of the main guys. Then you can start going, hey, let's trade a guy. Hey, WCW is trading DDP over for Kurt Angle, or
Christian. You also get the opportunity to blow up the group
for sure.
Like they don't necessarily have to trade for, because I always thought the biggest part of the invasion angle that did not work was when Red Rover sent Bubba Ray on over, and somebody that the crowd only knew as WWE turned out to be Team ECW, or Stone Cold, who only the smart marks knew was Stunning Steve, turned out to be the leader of WCW. Like, you run parallel storylines where that faction disbands, and all of a sudden you've got these wonderful established characters that can then run ramshot across other shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that works. And so I think as we're kind of wrapping this thing up, is this is a great thing. We didn't have to book DDP out for 5 years. All we needed to do was change that first 6 months of his, and then he can go against anybody in the company.
We worked in reality. I don't think DDP was ever going to be WWE champion. No.
Right.
I don't think that was his place.
But he certainly could be a guy that main events some of the lesser pay-per-views. He's not going to main event WrestleMania, but he might be able to main event Backlash or something.
You might even be able to build him up to, let's say this thing runs long enough to where Triple H is the champion and DDP comes back at him as a challenger. I think at this point in time, DDP was not going to be more than that, but you could have gotten multiple main events out of him, more than you would have got out of him as the Stalker.
Yeah, he was kind of dead on arrival with that gimmick. So
yeah, completely.
We've changed, not only have we changed the course of his career, but we changed the course of Ric Flair and Sting's career in here by proxy here.
Look at it. If we brought Sting in at this time, you could have easily had him versus Taker, because they would have both been in their prime, and the streak would have been in its prime. And let's not kid ourselves. Taker would have gone over, but dear Lord, it would have been a much more even build.
Absolutely. And he'd go over maybe in WrestleMania, but that might be the absolute blow off with those two guys. And so I feel like this gives some dignity to DDP's final years, because he wasn't 45.
Yeah.
Let's be real. He wasn't going to wrestle for another 15 years. He was going to wrestle for, 5 years more max.
Tops. Yeah.
And that's assuming he doesn't get injured the way he did, which is giving somebody else a suplex and hurting himself or something like that. It's like, it's hard on the body. And so, but this way he could do a lot more talking, storyline driven stuff where it doesn't have to be all in-ring action. And we get him for a couple more years. He helps that transition of the WCW brand and folds it into the WWE brand better, and maybe bring along a couple stars that, hey, this thing's working. This is actually working, so we'll spend a couple more dollars on it. Then this thing's not working. We're not spending another dime on it.
It's an actual invasion.
Yeah. Well, we did it. I'm happy with the way everything has turned out now.
Yes.
And
we did DDP justice.
We did him justice, and that's all that we asked. He's still a Hall of Famer. Instead of class of 2017, though, this might have bumped him all the way up to like 2012, and so this is awesome. Jesse, thank you again for being on the show. I'm sure you will be on again.
It's always a pleasure, buddy.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, you can find Jesse Jones at Jesse Jones on Twitter. You can listen to the Bourbon Showdown podcast, and just a really incredibly funny guy that now that things are opening up again, you can see him at hopefully a comedy club near you. And if it's not near you, well, go to the closest possible one, even if it's a couple states away. But he's touring this summer. Go to Jesse Jones online and see some of his schedule there. Jesse, thank you so much.
I appreciate it, buddy. It's always good to see you. We've known each other for so long that I thoroughly enjoy these podcasts because we get to shoot the breeze and catch up a little bit. And I've actually got Dusty Rhodes booking me right now. So I'm going to be all over the place, baby. I'm up and down the East Coast, making it hot like toast, baby. So it's going to be on like Donkey Kong, and we're going to be whining and dining with King the Queen, baby. It's a good time to be a comic because right now the road's opening back up, and we're all going to get to see you guys very soon. Yeah, baby.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Do you agree with our booking? Would you do it differently? Well, I'm at Comedian Luke on all social media platforms, and you can actually at Rebooking TT on Twitter and Rebooking the Territory on Facebook. You can also find out about future episodes there. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and please give us a 5-star review. It truly helps.